Well, hello, and welcome to ICRC-TV COVID-19 HR Updates. My name is Pandy Pridemore with the Human Resource USA. I want to welcome you to another show. If you've been with us since March, you know this show is completely focused on all the things that might impact a company in regards to the pandemic. And we have gone through a gambit of conversations, most of it driven by you, the viewers, but I'll have to tell you, the conversation isn't going to end anytime soon. There's a lot of COVID fatigue right now, but I brought you some exciting conversations today, both new and previous presenters. So sit back and I hope you enjoy the conversation. We've got Fred Brockman back. Fred's a chair with the Vistage CEO Advisory Board here in Cincinnati. Vistage is internationally known for working with CEOs and top executives on great business decisions and business outlook. And I know I'm not saying this right, Fred, you can change me at any time, but Fred's going to join us today because, you know, a couple months ago, we started talking about that 6-month look back. What do we need to acknowledge as what we've learned from COVID so far, what we've learned about our businesses, what we've learned about the possible future, beyond the fact that we know change is going to be the constant, the only constant of the universe moving forward. But Fred's going to take us a little bit deeper into what he's coaching his business CEOs and advisors on in terms of what they should be prioritizing and how should they be looking at their businesses. Good information, even if you're not a business owner. Remember, if you're a GM, if you're a senior advisor or strategist in a company, and sometimes that's the office manager, by the way. These are going to be some tips that you're going to want to write down. So we're really thrilled to have Fred. And then I've got a new presenter, Bob Westerkamp. And let me tell you, and I'm going to go ahead and throw this out, Bob. If you don't think that LinkedIn can get you connected with great people, Bob and I are here to tell you otherwise. Bob and I linked in not too long ago, and in just small little conversations, I realized, oh my gosh, I have to have him on the show. He's president of Superior Career Fairs. Now this is going to be a great presentation for you because he's going to help us understand how through the pandemic, we now have to start looking at employment through a virtual method, even from a career fair standpoint. Now, employment has been a huge topic for this show over the last couple of months because quite frankly, it wasn't easy to employ people before the pandemic. Now we've got other issues and dynamics that are coming in and complicating the topic. Well, Bob's going to help us better understand some options that employers of all sizes can consider. So Bob, we're very, very happy to have you on the show. So Fred, why don't we just start out with you? Welcome back.
Thanks, Bandy. You know, this is, people have told me that this has been the longest year of their lives. And many of us agree. And even for, you know, many of the folks that I work with running their businesses and surviving through this, through the first months of this pandemic has been tremendously challenging. And many of them have been focused, rightly so, I think, on just the day-to-day, you know, keeping the doors open, making sure sales are continuing, making sure that people are doing their jobs, showing up, along with the challenges of many of them have significant members of their teams working from home or living in hotels on the road. I mean, it's the whole world is different. But Vistage Worldwide, the organization that I'm affiliated with, publishes an awful lot of information for our members and for business owners in general. And this next group of thoughts kind of got my attention because, you know, we come to this time of year and we start thinking about, well, let's start planning for next year. Let's let's pull out our strategic plans and see how we did, see what we want to do. Just for laughs, at last month's meeting with my CEO members, I pulled out their goals from January of this year.
Well, that would have been interesting.
Oh, they were laughing. I mean, It was, oh yeah, well, that seemed important at the time. And, it was, wow, the old saying, man plans and God laughs, right? But nonetheless, as we look into this year, of course, we're going to plan for increasing our revenues and making sure we've got the right people on the team and that sort of stuff. But the CEO of Vistage, Sam Reese, published an article, and I've kind of consolidated some of his thoughts into just a few thoughts as we look to next year, and things for business owners and leaders, Pandy, like you said, office managers or perhaps division heads. If you've got people reporting to you or working for you, here's some things to think about. So question number one is, how long will we be operating in short-term sprints? Because that's kind of what we feel like, right? In the midst of this pandemic, many companies have focused pretty much entirely on short-term performance metrics, so they can quickly pivot and develop new strategies based on their results. Certainly when the PPP money hit everybody's income statement or balance sheet, that certainly was a game changer. But Sam writes, and I agree that, when we as leaders, when we focus on our key performance indicators, those metrics that we measure and look at regularly, then we can successfully measure and track not only the near term, but also be able to channel our resources toward driving the key initiatives, the longer term things, the real important things that we want to do in our business. Leaders, that there's absolutely still referring to their long-term plans as a reference point that can be adjusted as needed. However, while doing that, keeping in mind and keeping in sharp focus their organization's mission, values, culture, and purpose as the guiding star. As even though we're all rolling around in the weeds and cutting grass and chopping down trees like crazy, we still have to look up in the sky and see our guiding principles that keeps our company going and successful and keeps our team together. So how long will we be operating in short-term sprints? I don't know, but certainly keeping our eyes on the short term as well as the long term, we think is very important. Another question that we're hearing is, or that we're asking CEOs to consider is, where are there gaps in skill sets among the members of my leadership team? Many leaders, they're realizing how important it is to have a team who's comfortable with and can thrive in the midst of a great deal of change. Change is hard. It's coming everywhere, isn't it? CEOs are actively working to ensure their teams are developing the capability to succeed in a constantly shifting environment. And aren't we really seeing that too? I mean, gosh, every day a key team member perhaps unfortunately might, get sick with the COVID-19, or their family member or their parent, and suddenly they can't focus on you, they have to focus on their families. Well, how do we shift them? Do we have written plans? Do we have a game plan in mind to handle those kinds of changes? And in terms of the skill sets, though, if there are skill sets that need to be addressed, we think that's important. And communication is a big part of this. The most resilient leadership teams are in constant communication with one another, rather than leaving what and how they communicate to chance. And I might also toss in here the idea that, back in the early days of the pandemic, many of the people I work with were doing weekly video updates or email updates to their team members. And we're always stressing the importance of that. This thing is not over by a long shot. And it's important to keep the communications lines open with your entire company.
Can I stress something in there too, Fred?
Yeah, please do, Pandy.
I want to elaborate a little bit more too on the emphasis of skill sets. I'm noticing that there are some supervisors at some of my clients that just are not capable. They weren't trained, they were never prepared to deal with remote workers. And so we're getting a lot of hesitation, we're getting a lot of defensive behavior from the supervisors in, I don't really think they're working a full 40 hours, or I don't think, they were actually on the meeting. I don't think they were paying attention when we did such and such. I mean, I'm really concerned that we've got those individuals not being better prepared, because remote working is not going away. We really need to embrace these individuals. They might have other skill sets that are extremely viable to the company, but if they cannot manage remotely and do it effectively so that the workforce that's actually doing the work stays as productive as they should be, that the company will eventually fall on itself that way.
Yeah, I agree. And, to the best of my knowledge, there have been no real training programs or podcasts, or maybe until you came along, Pandy, with this program. I mean, how do you do it?
And you can. In fact, I'm working on an author right now who I read one of her articles on how to train supervisors for remote working, and that's why it's kind of sensitive on my mind. I'm trying to convince her to come on the show and actually walk through that. But training is available, and training is, we give training tips every so often on the show. Well, that would definitely be my training tip for today's show.
Yeah, is
helping supervisors understand that it's not as difficult, and we should trust in our work family. And put very clear expectations, staying true to your word of communication. So I don't want to steer you away from your conversation, but I really want to put an emphasis on that.
Well, yeah, and actually that leads kind of nicely into the next point of this conversation, which is CEOs are wondering or planning for, how will my team want to work in the future? I read an article today that offered up the opinion that commercial office space, the people that live in the world of commercial office space, could be in for a tough time, as some businesses are realizing that, well, maybe we don't need that 40,000 square feet downtown on Fifth Street. Maybe we don't need that big office building over in Northern Kentucky. Maybe we could have open working spaces and people can come in whenever they want to. I have a nephew that works at one of the large healthcare providers here in town, in their corporate offices, and they've been told, you're staying at home till we tell you to come back. Yeah. And their big beautiful office building sits virtually empty. Well, somebody's got to pay the mortgage. Somebody's got to keep the lights on. The building has to be maintained. I'm personally glad I don't have to carry that kind of a burden in my world, as I work from my palatial home office here.
Absolutely.
But go ahead.
To add a comment to that, then I would interject that this is a great time for organizations, especially in fourth quarter, as we're looking at the next year, to take that question and break down each one of your positions in the company and find out, or identify and document what are the essential work functions. Is this individual necessary if we aren't going to have people walking through the door? If she can answer phones and take customer calls and send them out to our remote workers, do we really need a receptionist? Do we really need a call center where people are sitting in the desk across from each other? Essential work functions are extremely important no matter what, but when we're talking about the EEOC, when we're talking about accommodations, EEOC is already taking the position that just because we went remote for the pandemic does not change the essential work functions for positions. So if people can come back, that will not be an excuse saying, well, you let me work from home during the pandemic, so you should be able to let me work from home now.
Yeah.
It's not going to work.
Wow.
So employers need to be able to defend their case if they decide, if they haven't already opened up the doors, if they're going to start to answer that question very honestly with themselves, what is needed, and are we going to bring everybody back? Maybe not.
Yeah. Well, and Sam writes here that the reality is that many companies, including your suppliers, your partners, your customers, will likely be in a virtual environment for quite a while. Vistage research shows that many leaders are offering flexibility to their employees with, I want to get this number right, 55% of companies allowing their teams to work remotely during the pandemic, 55%. We all now know that for companies in many industries, it's possible to successfully work remotely, right? Yeah. So leaders are now focused on how to maintain that energy and connection in a long-term remote or hybrid work environment. How do you maintain the human connection? You know, people develop, I mean, when I was president of our family business, I mean, people develop deep relationships with each other. We spend more time at the office sometimes than, you know, we did awake with our families at home. So, you know, how do those kind of relationships maintain? How does the culture that we've worked so hard to create, how do we do that? Your employees are looking ahead. I'm sorry, CEOs are looking ahead and thinking about how their team will want to work long-term and what that means for recruiting, retaining talent, right? And as well for their business and work environment. Folks in high-risk categories are less eager to come back to the shop, you know, and just, I think it was just yesterday, Governor Beshear announced that in Kentucky that he's encouraging businesses to go back to largely a virtual workforce wherever possible. And I suspect that after the election, Ohio may not be, I don't know that they'll require it or it'll be as firm as it was back in April and May and June, but wouldn't be surprised, personal opinion, wouldn't be surprised to see that happen in Ohio or other states.
Wow.
Yeah. So let's think about our customers now for a minute. In this totally new environment, how do we bring more value to our customers in order to over deliver? You know, one thing hasn't changed. The most successful leaders are laser focused on staying close to their best customers and understanding the strength of the relationships with those customers. And just as the best leaders have constant and clear communications with their employees, we have to do the same with our clients and customers. So as leaders, we're taking these questions into consideration when it comes to our customers, and pretty simple things on the surface, but deep questions. You know, think about your customer. What kind of challenges are they facing? What is their life like on a daily basis, weekly, monthly basis? How will my company adapt our resources to address the customer's needs? Because that's what customer service is all about, right? How do we have to change? Look what Amazon has done. You know, I mean, they have just turned online marketing into an art form. And they were doing a pretty good job before. I think they're doing a terrific job now, given the volume. Think about the volume of product that they're pushing through. And finally, you know, what are our written plans for servicing our customers? What's the strategy? What are the tactics? What do we have to do to make sure that we please and over deliver for our customers? And the strongest leaders are determining how they can add more value and consistently over deliver. And then thinking about culture, about the culture. The companies that I work with, by and large, all love the culture that they've developed. The CEOs bring their talents to the business. They have a vision for the kind of people they want working there. They have processes to onboard people, to select people, to onboard them. And if somebody falls off the wagon train for a minute there, they have ways to get them back on the wagon. And culture is everything in business, I think. And so how do we maintain it? How do we revive it? From an employee perspective, it's clear when a company's culture is driven by its mission, vision, purpose, values, and most importantly, are you listening? Demonstrated by executive teams. It can be also apparent when culture has been strained or when values may have been pushed off to the side for one reason or another.
And
Effective leader, go ahead.
I think this is a very good point, and I think this is, again, is where the flexibility and the adaptation of a company is going to have to be at the forefront. Culture cannot be the same culture you were using when all the employees were in the same building and they were all looking each other face to face and you were having meetings around the conference room. The culture of many companies will never go back to that. And the ones that are trying to come back and are only allowing 6 people in the conference room versus 20, again, think of the impact of that culture, because now you have to be selective as to who actually gets to participate in certain meetings or who gets to have input on certain projects and such. So I think that's probably one of the strongest ones you have, because that requires, without a doubt, flawless communication. That right there is going to make or break a lot of companies. And I think about our bars and our restaurants and the cultures that they themselves had and the engagement with their customers. My gosh, Fred, it's just heart-wrenching to think of what some of these wonderful organizations that just ran like clockwork because they had a great team internal, they had a great team of external with their customers, and it's all kind of gone away, just washed away. We'll never get that back. I think that's probably the strongest point you've brought up so far.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and continuing on, Sam says that just what you just said, Pandy, effective leaders are transparent and consistent in communicating with employees. They don't pop up only when there's great news or when there's horrible news. It's so important for leaders to keep their teams engaged and informed on the challenges that lie ahead in order to maintain that culture that they've built. And as an employee, what a deep feeling of trust we can develop when we know that our leader will tell us the good news, tell us the bad news, help us prepare for the challenges to come. That's leadership in a nutshell, in my opinion. And so finally, as a CEO, as a leader, as a group leader, an executive, what does that mean? What is your role? And to be a CEO or a leader does not mean you have to be omnipotent. You have to be the shall answer man. You have to know everything. We can't. We don't. In a period of change, just like it is now, there's going to be bumps in the road. But adaptable CEOs are leading right now with commitment, transparency, flexibility. They're forming teams of people who are comfortable with change or teaching their existing teams to be comfortable with change. It's not that change is not a bad thing. What happens to us is what happens. How we react to what happens is what determines our future. So, these are the things that, people, in addition to fighting the battle every single day, great leaders are also looking up, climbing up to the top of the forest and seeing which direction we're cutting our trees and making sure we're still on the right path and that we've got our team and our people and our customers and everybody aligned. And so just a few thoughts.
Wasn't it Simon Sinek who said that some of the greatest businesses of all time came out of or were created in times of huge turmoil? And I'm trying to think of a really good example of that. But I think to that point, Fred, the ones who really are the true entrepreneurs are going to persevere, and they're going to understand and actually get excited and actually get wound up. And I'm thinking of a couple of my clients right now that I've always called a little bit of, cowboys, where they're just making decisions, they're shooting without even blinking, they are loving this right now. They're loving it.
Yeah.
The pandemic has taught us one thing, and that's it can happen at the speed of light. We just have to, just have to learn from it. Thank you. Thank you so very much for those words. This is why you've been a chair for so many years and why Vistage is so well renowned. I can't speak enough of good things about that organization. In fact, we've had some Vistage people on here that, again, speak very highly of it. So thank you, Fred. Thank you.
My pleasure, Pandy. Thank you.
So
thanks, Fred.
I'm thinking about all the things that we just talked about with Fred, that Bob, you can just come right in and give us some new solutions for, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, like Fred had mentioned, it's no one likes change, or it seems like many people don't like change. It's one of the most difficult things in business that there is when someone has to go through change, and this is obviously a huge change. And one of the things that we've been doing, or what we do here at Superior Career Fairs, we've produced career fairs. My father started this business in 1982. So I took it over in 1999, and we've been producing events for a very long time. So all the events that we've ever produced, though, have been, you go to a hotel, you go somewhere, you book space, we call out on companies, and everyone meets face to face, and it's a job interview, and that's what it is, and that's how we've always done business, and that's how that's what everyone was comfortable with. The companies were comfortable with that. Everyone's familiar with your college career fairs, whether it's at Xavier or UC or Cincinnati State. We always have done professional level ones with more, 3 to 5 more years of experience. But it's the same thing overall. So when this pandemic hit, we had to find a way. We knew of a way because we knew of the software that was available. We knew of a way to produce a virtual type career fair, but we didn't know how that would work. We didn't know how that would look for the candidates. We didn't know how. Is it too difficult for some candidates? I am very much not technologically. Getting on the Zoom call was difficult enough for me. So there's a lot of folks out there that do have a hard time figuring out how to use technology. How difficult was it going to be for companies to set up, their virtual space, and how would that even look? So, like I said, we produced our first one. It's a virtual career fair. We produced that back in August here in Cincinnati, just in the Cincinnati market. We've been producing them for a little bit over a decade for the technology and engineering and security clearance events, just because there's so many companies in that sector of the world that can recruit candidates from DC to LA and across the entire country. But the one here in Cincinnati that we did in August was a huge success. So we added one for coming up here for December 2nd.
And again, break this down, because some of our viewers have no idea what you're talking about in terms of a career fair. Because when I think of virtual, I'm thinking, well, it's one person talking to another. How in heaven is there a list of companies and they make appointments so that they jump on Zoom at multiple times during the day? Help me understand. Let's just take me through if I were a job seeker.
Yes. So if you're job seeking, so the first thing that you would do is go to our website, which is superiorcareerfairs.com.
Okay.
So that's the first thing you would do. That will list all the companies that will be there on December 2nd that are interviewing, or that you could potentially talk to. And you want to check back with that list because it changes literally on a daily basis. And that's the first step you take. And then about 2 weeks prior to the event, we will have a link on there that you'll be able to register for the event as a job seeker. You're going to say, all right, I'm coming to this event, or I'm going to pre-register for this event. At that point, what the companies that are participating can do is they can go in and actually invite you to come interview with them.
Okay.
So a lot of the companies will come and say, hey, listen, we really like your background. We see that you have a great amount of experience in what we're looking for. Please make sure you do come, because of we get hundreds. Back in August, we got over 1,000 candidates. Still, not everyone shows up. So, for the companies to reach out is always a good thing. Go ahead. Did you have a?
Well, does this mean I have to have a resume?
You do not have a resume. You do not need to have a resume. But like I said, like I always said, I think because you do fill out a profile. So you say, I have a sales background, and you can click boxes, and it's in that sense, when you register, it's a little bit almost like a job posting.
Okay.
But when you go into the virtual environment on December 2nd, that's where everything changes, and that's how it becomes a virtual career fair.
Got it.
So at that point, you'll get reminders as a job seeker to come to the event. Hopefully you can find some time to do it. It's from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And you will literally go in and see the 30, 40, we've got 30 companies now, so we expect to have 50 or 60 organizations.
Wow.
And this is an all professions event, all professions, diversity and inclusion. So absolutely everybody's invited and to come to the event, and encouraged to come to the event. The companies are looking for everything that you can imagine, from truck drivers. We've got every major hospital, I think, in the city, between Mercy Health, Tri-Health, Children's Hospital. We've got some really big names, Western and Southern, Cintas, U.S. Army's there. So there's a ton of different companies, a lot of logistics. I think, Fred was referring to some of the logistics. Amazon will, of course, be there, DHL. So you just think of all the different types of careers that these companies can have. Yeah. That's what you're looking for. So when you go in as a job seeker, Pandy, you will be able to see a list of all the companies there. You click into their virtual booth. It's very simple. It's just a small square that you click on. It'll say Amazon, for example. You click on there, you go through, you'll see their job postings, what they're looking for, and then you'll say, yeah, I'd like to talk to someone here. And then there's 5 or 6 recruiters usually there, and you'll just get in line. They'll say, Pandy, you've got about 7 minutes before you come up. And actually what you'll be doing is chatting live with a recruiter from Amazon or from Speedway or from the Army. So That's how it starts.
Is this a conversation like you and I are having, or is this just a simple chat on a chat box?
This is a simple chat on a chat box right now. So a lot of the companies love the fact that we do have the feature to do what we're doing right here. Okay. And they ask the candidates, can you jump on video? And it's as simple as clicking a button to do that. So the software is really incredible. And what we found is we got to start promoting this a little bit more. You do need to dress professionally if you're going to attend this virtually, because the reason that the candidates weren't doing it is because they weren't prepared. They were sitting home, or they could have been even at work, which we do get a lot of passive seekers of candidates that come that are currently working and they're shopping around and they don't want their boss to see that they're interviewing with someone. So, but that's the general theme. Like I said, we had 48 companies back in August. I expect at least that many this time. And it's a great way. I don't think I can honestly say, as long as I've been doing the physical events, this is a way to actually get, Fred talked about getting, overperforming for your customers. And I do believe that we're overperforming for both the job seekers and the companies here, because we're getting so many more people that can participate, as far as companies that they can do it from home if they're from Dayton or if they're from Northern Kentucky and they don't feel like driving to the Sharonville Convention Center, for example, then they can certainly still participate in that. And then it's the same thing on the candidate side of things.
Oh my gosh! And again, how are you advertising anywhere? How do other people, if they aren't going to see this show, how are other people going to hear about this? Yeah,
so a couple of our media sponsors are the Voice of Black Cincinnati, and Channel 9 is sponsoring as well. So you'll start seeing TV commercials on that coming up here. And then of course we've run advertising and promotions on all the major job boards. So if you are job seeking, you will find out about it. So, most people have their resume on all, 1, 2, or 3 of the big job boards, whether it's Indeed or Monster, Career Builder. So we advertise and promote on that. And so you will find out about it if you are out there looking. And, we also advertise on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn's really helped out with that. And I don't know if anyone has seen this, where it says, open to work, that green banner in the bottom of that. So, we can reach out to those folks as well.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Bob, would you do me a favor, please, and give me the website again and the date of the upcoming event?
Sure. It's Superior Career Fairs, and that's plural. So superiorcareerfairs.com.
Okay.
And the event date is December 2nd. And the number one question we get is, where is it? and it's, you'll find out quickly, it's virtual, it's online. So that the location is online, and it runs from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And, like I said, we do have a lot of, between St. Elizabeth and Mercy and Tri-Health, Children's Hospital, and I'm sure it's because of everything going on with the pandemic. They're all looking for all kinds of healthcare folks, from LPNs, RNs, CNAs, and logistics companies. Kroger, there's a lot of retail, Kroger, Target, Fifth Third. You'll get the full lineup of companies there. And like I said, I would just check back on a daily basis, honestly, because we added 5 today, for example. So it's been something that companies are very interested in. The biggest question I get is, wow, you guys have to be, you must not be busy at all. Your business must be dead. And the companies are hiring. I think we all know companies are hiring, and they're hiring like crazy. And this is the way that they're doing it now. I mean, and I don't know, we tried to talk about producing a live event in the first quarter of next year. And quite frankly, as Fred said, we're not close to that yet. We're not. And I could tell that. We got a sense of that very quickly. It's just something that we're not close to yet.
Well, and if I were an employer, I would seriously want to look at your opportunity, because, and we can't talk dollars, but I know as an employer how much it costs when I post it on Indeed, and I don't get an opportunity to get this close this fast with a candidate as what you're offering on this job fair. And I can also participate in your job fair and have multiple positions. Are you
Right.
charging by the volume of positions that they have open, or is it just to participate in the fair?
Well, there is a standard and a platinum package. We've already got, I'm counting here as I look down, there's 6 companies that are taking part as a platinum sponsor to the event, which does get them more job postings. Okay. And then there's the standard package, which is what a vast majority of the companies will do. That you'll get up to 10 job postings, but you can also put a link in there to all of your postings, that will take you actually offsite to all of their postings. And you can get up to 4, 5, 6 recruiters in there as an organization. So, and it's quite frankly, we've priced it such that it's very comparable with a job posting. And the nice thing about it is, if you would post a job right now for whatever it is, you could get 1,000 responses. No one's ever argued the effectiveness of job postings. But the nice thing is, with this, you can meet face to face, and I think more and more individuals will be doing that, and you'll be chatting live. And the organizations can keep track of, because they're going to talk to hundreds of people that day. They can put notes in there, like I really want to talk to Pandy again. I really want to talk to Fred again, and those are very nice things that the softwares over the last decade has gotten. It's really evolved. It's an excellent software.
Oh, so the employer themselves will have access to using part of the software to use almost like an applicant tracking system?
Absolutely, yes.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yes, and they will get, in addition to that, when a candidate does submit their resume, only those candidates that submit their resume, only the companies that participate in the event will get a copy of that resume. So, they can very easily go back afterwards and says, all right, we've got Pandy here, now let's go find her resume, and they can also go back and put notes in, and all of that is transferable into their system. Yes.
Okay, so let me make sure I'm hearing you correctly. If I'm a job seeker and I come to the virtual job fair, my information will be accessible by all 48 companies.
Yes, unless you can make the determination not to, and that's one of the very few questions that we ask. But you can say, in other words, if you work at Kroger and you don't want Kroger to know you're there, then you would say, don't do that, which a lot of the companies do. But most candidates are coming because they're just like, I want to get my information out there. So they are going, they do provide their resume to all the companies there.
Absolutely. Why would you not? Remember, I always tell candidates when I'm helping one of my clients, look, you're interviewing the employers as much as they're interviewing you as a job seeker or as a candidate. So why would a job seeker not want to expose themselves to 48 companies and see what their options are and what possibilities and opportunities are out there?
Right. And quite frankly, with this many companies, 4 hours is always, is a good time frame. But if you have every intention of trying to speak to 40 of those companies, it could take you the entire 4 hours, because there'll be other people there, and there's people in virtual line, so to speak. You do have to wait in a queue. But no, I mean, the one thing that I would say that just to be prepared for is I would dress. You don't have to dress. You don't have to put a suit and tie on, but I would dress professionally, and I would make sure that you are prepared, because you could actually be doing a face-to-face interview with someone, which is a really good thing. I mean, there's the ability to click on one link on our website and talk to 50 companies at once is a great value. And it's free, by the way. It is free to job seekers.
I gotta tell you, excuse me, Fanny, but I gotta tell you, Bob, I love this idea. And I'm gonna make sure that my members know about it.
Yeah, there's videos on there, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but I did want to let everyone know this is new. Everyone hates change, and I always think about that. But when you click on there, there is a demo that you can go through, and it's only 3, 4, 5 minutes of a video that will show you exactly what to expect, what it looks like, what you can do. And then in addition to that, when all those fails, there's a little help button in the bottom right-hand corner that says help me, and someone will immediately help you out as far as whatever question you might have.
A great idea. Yeah. Wonderful.
Well, and again, as we've said, employment is a very, very important topic right now during this pandemic. We've got to get people back to work. There's no guarantee that there's going to be an extension for unemployment. There's no guarantee that we just don't know anything other than we've got jobs.
Right.
And the faster we can get people back to work, the better we can get, or faster we can get our economy back. Okay. What have I not asked you that you really want to stress about what you're doing here, David? Because I want you to have every opportunity to make sure our viewers get the most out of what you're talking about.
Like I said, I would just go to that superiorcareerfairs.com website. I would check it out. I know, it's November 3rd. This is in less than a month now. And I would do the research on those companies that are there. If you're seeing companies that you're very interested in, go see what their openings are, because those won't be up just yet. Go there and find out, hey, what's this company looking for? What's Kroger looking for? Are they just looking for cashiers? Because they're not. They're looking for higher level, sometimes accounting and finance folks. Loth is one that just joined us recently. They sell office furniture, but they're looking for recruiters and human resources managers and salespeople. So do the research, know before you go in, what you're looking for and what those companies are looking for. You don't want to waste your time by waiting in line with Myriad Neuroscience, for example, if you're not in the neurology field. But like I said, I would just do your research and make sure that you do pre-register, because sometimes if you try to register the day of the event, it never gets bogged down. So that'd be like you saying, the biggest site, be like Amazon getting bogged down. It's never going to get bogged down. But you just don't want to take that time at the day of to do that. You want to be pre-registered and ready to go. Log right in and you're ready to go.
Let me ask you this too, and I'm going to kind of throw a twist to this. You do put on virtual career fairs or do career fairs all over the country. Since remote working is so much more prevalent now, and we understand that it's not going away, what other areas geographically are you going to be putting on these kind of events that maybe our viewers, if they don't see it on this site or on this event, maybe they could pick up a remote or virtual job at one of your other locations?
I would think and this one is considered actually it's a tri-state virtual event, because we're going to be really advertising and promoting it in Cincinnati, Columbus, Dayton, Indianapolis, Louisville, Lexington, Northern Kentucky. So that's really the area we're hitting. We hate to get too small, with a virtual event like this, because we got to thinking there's a lot of candidates that are going to be really interested, in jobs all around the region. Our regular events, not our regular events, but a lot of the events that we produce, like I said, are technology, engineering, and security clearance, and we do those nationwide. So those events candidates can come from anywhere, whether it's Boston to DC. Most of the candidates with a security clearance, for example, and I don't want to get off track, are in DC. So when we continue to do these all professions and diversity type career fairs, it's going to be mostly in this area. So Columbus, Cleveland, Indianapolis, Louisville, Lexington, and we could expand obviously across the whole country, but it's a heck of a lot of legwork and a lot of logistics and a lot of sales. So that's how we need to kind of re-expand our business.
And all of this information again is posted on your website.
It is. Yes, it is.
I love it. Pandy, I'm sorry, as we discussed, I'm going to have to bail out for another Zoom call here.
No, thank you, Fred.
So,
thank you very
okay.
much.
Thanks, Fred.
Bob, great to meet you, Bob. I want to give you a call, so I'm gonna find you and give you a buzz.
Okay, appreciate it.
Thanks. Thank you, Pandy. All right, bye-bye.
Bob, where do you think job fairs? I mean, do you think we're going to end up virtual all the way through from here on out?
Well, I was talking to one of my customers, and I agree with him. He's with American Family Insurance, and he's going to be attending this event. And he said, "This is the new now." I like those words better than "this is the new forever," because I just don't believe. I do think that eventually, whatever it is, I don't know if it's a vaccine or if it's something we learn to live with, or I'm not sure. That's not the business I'm in, and I'm not even here to say anything. I don't know about that, but I do know that I do think that things will get back to normal in the sense that I think we'll be able to have we'll be able to have concerts. I believe we'll be able to have career fairs. I think we will be able to do that again. That's the biggest thing is when's that going to happen? I have no idea. So for now, this is a really good solution to it. And to go along with what you were asking, it could be something that companies are really excited about continuing to do rather than going to a physical career fair. And you've been to plenty of events, I'm sure, whether it's a trade show. Generally, when you're setting up for those, as the person setting up, it's kind of a pain because you got to get stuff out of your car. You're usually dressed up. You're carrying things over 3 or 4 stories. There's advantages, and the technology is there now that like we can sit here and talk face to face like this. Can we shake hands? No, but I just think that the way that technology is, this is a really good way to do things because, like I said, the turnout we've had as far as candidates has always far exceeded what we ever did in a physical type, because people have to take off work to come up to our career fairs. They have to dress up. They have to print off resumes. And, I'm cool with having these things stay here for a long time. So I do like these virtual events, to be honest with you. I know people do like to shake hands, and there is a time and a place where that will probably happen. And that might be in a one-on-one setting when they decide to come in to hire you or something like that.
Yeah. But let's, very quickly, let's go over some etiquette that our job seekers or the viewers that are on right now, if you're not on Zoom meetings on a regular basis and you're now going to interview on a Zoom platform, let's go over some just basic etiquette. You've already talked about being dressed, at least from a visual perspective, in a professional manner, but I can't emphasize enough eye contact. So please, if you're interviewing for a job on Zoom, please make sure that you're giving the other individual great eye contact.
Yes. Make sure that
your audio and your video is working well before you actually get.
Great point. I mean, that is true. That's a very good point. Yes.
Yeah. Make sure that you don't have any outside sounds or disruptions. It's one thing if you've got a lawnmower going on outside or if you own a dog, but if you can control any outside sounds that will distract you as well as distract the person on the other side of the Zoom, try to do that, because again, you want that person who's interviewing you as a candidate to not blink. You want them completely engaged in the conversation. Yeah. Help me out, Bob.
I would encourage the candidates to try to engage with the recruiters and say, "Hey, can we jump on video?" rather than having the company rep ask them.
Love that.
Because I think that I think that it's something they're probably waiting for. The company rep may be like, oh, this is pretty interesting. I'd like to do this, but just say, listen, this chat thing, we can text each other and email all day. Anyone can do that, but let's do this. Let's talk face to face right now.
Yeah.
You get 7 minutes, I think it is. You get like 7 minutes per, with the company rep before it kind of times down and says, all right, we have to move on because there's lines of people. But that's a good amount of time, 7 minutes.
That kind of leads me into another conversation that I wanted to have. Let me see if I can find it here. But I was reviewing an application for an actual job application for one of my clients. And I was, looking over all the basic information and things that have to be removed, things that need to be included. And all of a sudden it dawned on me, in our traditional applications, employers, there is absolutely nothing that refers to remote working. And in the environment that we're in right now and moving forward, I think it's very, very important that you ask questions or delve into the conversation of how this individual has either performed or adapted to remote working, or how they would adjust their approach if they've been unemployed since the furloughs started. Remember, you can put a supplement to the general information that you're asking, but if the resume doesn't say that the individual has been working remotely, and you know that it's an IT position, or you know that it's a customer service position that you're going to have working remote, please ask that question. And candidates, if you're in the midst of a conversation and you have the right to ask that, where will this location be? Where will I be working? Promote your remote working skills. Promote your adaptability. Tell them, explain to them how you did it. This is what I did to set up my office. This is how I stay focused. This is how I stay disciplined. This is how I avoid the distractions. This is how I set milestones. I think that's going to be a vital part of the conversations as we interview moving forward.
Yeah, it sure is. Yes.
And again, I don't know, I suppose on this one, it says applicable skills at the bottom. I guess we could modify that. This happens to be an HVAC company, so they're not working remotely. That's why it's imperative. But for what we're doing here with your stuff, Bob, I think employers need to really seriously think about that. If not, the candidates should certainly mention it.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, thank you. Thank you so very, very much. Again, I want to encourage our viewers and our employers, please go to superiorcareerfairs.com, check out what they're doing. Even if you may not be interested now, understand that, like Bob said, they've been around since 1982. I had my first child in 1982. They're not going anywhere. And as you can see, they have embraced the change of what's needed for the pandemic. So if you need somebody or need to have a different alternative, we're always looking for new ideas for recruitment, please give Bob and his team a call. I'm sure he'll be more than happy to walk you through any of it.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Pandy.
No, thank you. And again, yay for LinkedIn.
Yeah, no kidding.
So back to our HR updates. We have just a few, and I just want to go through these very, very quickly. Remember, you are now in fourth quarter with COVID. And I know that many of you are not in the offices because you've just been working remote as HR reps. But keep in mind, guys, your labor law posters still need to be maintained. And we've got 24 states across the country that are increasing their minimum wage coming up in January. So if you get a chance, please go back into the office, make sure your workers' comp certificate has been updated. Most of those were back in July, but I still see people who haven't updated. If you've got remote workers, you need to be sending those posters and those updates and those certificates out. So scan them, send them out to your employees, and remind them that they are still covered if it's a remote position. You might even talk to, if you have individuals outside of the state of Ohio, make sure that they're getting those postings and those certifications as well. Oh gosh, the FFCRA, it obviously is still here, but guys, we're coming up on the expiration date, December 31st of this year. The rules have not changed since September 11th, I believe was the last date. The Q&A for that was like 24 pages long. I'm still getting questions about, can I exempt my company? Do I have to pay 100% versus 2/3? Look, I know we're all exhausted with all of this, but please either talk to your labor law attorney, talk to your consultant, call us. We will be more than happy to walk you through this, but you need to be following that program until till they either it expires or they extend it. And I have, with all the attorneys that I work with and talk to on a regular basis, I have not heard anything saying that it was going to be extended, but let's just put our cards on the table. We know there's a bill in Congress that's being held up, and we know that there are programs to continue for pandemic circumstances. Is there a likelihood this is going to extend? Absolutely. But when that happens, you'll get all the updates either by this show or through another source, probably your employee benefit broker. So please make sure that what you're working off of right now is the most recent information. And if you don't have that, get a hold of us, send me a note here to the station. I'll be more than happy to send it to you, but you really cannot drop the ball on this, because employees are getting nervous with the rise in the COVID cases, and employees are now realizing, hey, I haven't used these programs. I need to start asking for it. I had a company the other day ask if they could just exempt themselves from it because they, after all this time, got their first claim. You got to be very, very careful. There's 3 major points that an employer with less than 50 employees has to meet to be exempt from offering the Emergency Family Medical Leave Act and the paid sick leave. They are tight. So please don't just assume that you can exempt yourself. And I know we talked about this months and months ago, but it's very, very serious. Remember, they will be auditing some of you, not all of you, but some of you. So anything having to do with the CARES Act, anything having to do with FFCRA, anything having to do with the PPP, anything having to do with the pandemic should all be maintained in a separate file. It should all be maintained separate so that you can get to it, whether it's the IRS auditing you, whether it's EEOC auditing you, whether it's the Department of Labor, you have it with OSHA set aside. We are still, and I have to apologize. The Cincinnati Health Collaborative was to be on the show today. I was very excited about them coming on. They were going to talk about all the testing sites. Unfortunately, something happened at the very last minute, literally 10 minutes before the show. So they were not able to participate. We're hoping to bump them in 2 weeks on our next show on November 14th, I believe, or 17th, excuse me. And that you really want to hear what they've got to say. Every location, every geographical location should have online free testing sites, or at least testing sites. My clients all got copies for Ohio and Kentucky relative to where they were located. If you cannot find those sites for your employees, please, again, send the station a note. I'll be more than happy to help you find those. But we need to understand what these testing sites are about, how we can utilize them, who's organizing them, and we'll enjoy that conversation. I also got a confirmation next week, or for our next show, that we're going to have a representative from the Red Cross to talk about how the pandemic has affected emergency response. Now think about this, guys. CPR now has to change, the whole process of how to handle CPR. We now need to start thinking about just emergency responses with defibrillation, with blood pathogens. You know, I remember back in 1985, was actually a gentleman who coaches or teaches actually for FEMA, and he was talking about how HIV changed a lot of their training processes. Well, now all those emergency response processes are now being changed because of the pandemic. And as an employer, just as a pedestrian, being at the mall or at the airport, we all need to take this kind of stuff into consideration. So I'm very excited that the Red Cross has confirmed that they're going to come in and walk us through some of those new procedures. But we thoroughly enjoy doing this show. I have to thank ICRC-TV for, again, giving us one more hour. My name is Pandy Pridemore, and I want to thank you for being with us. We'll see you in 2 weeks.